Now, on historyradio.org, Bride of a Day, by J.H. Rosny.
Bride of a Day by J.H. Rosny. My first marriage, said Jacques Fervers, was of but a few hours' duration and did not break my betrothal to her who afterwards became my true wife. It was nevertheless a legal wedding and without doubt the best action of my life. I have pardoned myself for many faults on account of the happiness I gave to her who was my bride for a day. At the time of which I speak, I used sometimes to dictate notes on a philosophical work to an old copyist who lived in Rue de l'Estrapade. He was one of the best men in the world, but had been brought to poverty by an unusual series of misfortunes which he had a weakness for recounting to all comers. I used to listen to him willingly, for his voice was charming and his words well chosen. While he spoke, his daughter, a timid little blonde, would sit near us copying papers. I found her alone 2 or 3 times and could not help remarking that she seemed greatly agitated in my presence. And she was quite pretty. I saw a look of infinite tenderness in her beautiful eyes when they met mine. I felt some vague inclination towards her, but I quickly stifled it. Yes, I often spoke kindly to her, that she might see I did not think her displeasing. My gentle words impressed a soul so profound that I would have shrunk back affrighted could I have guessed its depth. We had known each other for some time when I was suddenly called away from the city, and, during my absence, I fell in love and became betrothed. The very morning of my return to Paris, someone knocked at my door, and my old copyist entered. His thin figure was yet more meagre, his face pale, his temples hollow, and his eyes red with weeping. "Sir," he said, "I trust you will excuse my coming thus, but you have always been so good. My daughter, I fear she is about to die." "Indeed," I responded, with more politeness than emotion. "She is in hospital, sir. I have come to ask you, to say to you—" He interrupted himself, stammering, incoherent, his eyes full of entreaty, and said abruptly, without further prelude, "My daughter loves you. Before her approaching death, I believed you might be able—" And without giving me time to recover from this strange declaration, he commenced a story of love, though prolix, was so strange and pathetic that when he ended, my eyes were wet with tears. "Will you see her? It would make her so happy, and she has but a few weeks to live." 3/4 of an hour I was at the young girl's bedside. Her face shone with that ineffable beauty with which coming death sometimes transfigures the features of the young. At seeing me there, her great dark eyes lighted up with a joy that touched me to the heart. Almost at once she guessed that her father had revealed her girlish secret, and she commenced to tell me the sad, sweet story of her love, the pathetic romance of a poor little maiden resigned to death, a tale of infinite tenderness, how first she had known she loved me, then her fear that her love would not be returned, then her illness and her wish to die. For an hour she talked thus, her blonde head lying upon the snow-white pillow, her beautiful eyes gazing into mine. Finally, she asked in a trembling voice, "And you? Did you ever... What could I say? Should I play the cruel executioner by telling her the truth, or mercifully console her with a lie? Pity moved me. I have loved you long. Is it true? It is true indeed. A look of joy, such as I will never see again in this world, a joy of the despairing, overspread her face. And in that moment, if I loved her not, there was something very sweet in my soul, an atom of that boundless compassion which is the closest kin to love. I know not what led her during the following days to doubt me, but one afternoon she asked, "But will you ever marry me?" I swore to her that I would. She smiled up at me with adoration. She prayed aloud, thanking God for his goodness. One day I was so moved by the depth of her love for me that I wished to give her yet more happiness. It would cost me so little. Alas, was she not irredeemably condemned? "I am going to publish the banns," I cried. Her joy was almost terrible in its intensity. Her face shone with a marvelous splendor, and while she drew down my face to hers, while she laughed and cried in reciting to me in broken words the prayer of her love, while she spoke to me as a fervent devotee to God, I felt that I had given to one human being the equivalent of a lifetime of happiness. I will not tell you how I arranged to obtain the consent of my guardian. I did not ask that of my fiancée. I knew she would pardon me afterward. The banns were published, and I made all the preparations for our regular marriage. During the weeks which followed, she lived in ecstasy. Her malady seemed relenting. A miraculous beauty seemed to shine about her like an aureole. She dazzled me. She filled my heart with a sad love, like that of a mother for frail, beautiful children who cannot live. I had placed her in a special room at the hospital, where she received the care of the best physicians and had a sister of charity to watch over her night and day. I passed the greater part of my time with her. I could not satiate myself with that adoring gaze, with that beatitude which each word, each gesture of mine bestowed. How well I remember the twilight hours when I would sit beside her, watching her pale face blend harmoniously with the shadows, while she murmured to me her words of love like the verses of a song. "Better than God, better than the Virgin, better than my life and the life of the universe." Thus time flowed by, and the wedding day came. After the civil marriage, they set up an altar in her chamber and dressed her in a rich bridal robe. She seemed to live in an atmosphere of perfect bliss. She was as beautiful as a day in springtime when it draws towards sunset and the misty glory rises over the hills and lakes and the drowsy flowers droop their head in sleep. She lived 20 years in that hour. I have but to close my eyes and I will see her again. Her eyes were so large and bright that they seemed to efface her pale visage. A saintly smile played upon her lips. Her little hands were clasped as she listened to the voice of the priest. Our fingers joined, and she trembled when at last she pronounced the great "Yes," for she put in it all her religion, all the force of her being, then sank back, her strength exhausted. But what delicious fatigue, what blissful weariness! Tenderly she whispered, as she dreamed and drew me near her lips. The murderous shadow of death crept rapidly onwards. Her spirit wandered in the far-off land of twilight. I saw her cheek grow leaden-hued and her temples hollow. She felt not the approach of death, but continued to love, to be happy, to forget herself in her dream divine. Her head was pillowed on my arm, and I watched her dark eyes grow wider, wider yet. Her hair shone upon the pillow like a mesh of gold. The silken bridal robe enveloped her like a cloud. The sun had set, and the daylight was fading, and she murmured, "Thou lovest me, Jacques. Thou lovest the poor girl, mon Dieu. We will live long. I feel that I cannot die now." Her voice sounds as if she had turned back at the entrance of that mysterious land to call to me once more. It is like bells heard far off upon the sea. Her body grows cold in its rich winding sheet, but she no longer suffers. She repeats, "I cannot die." A vague smile hovers over her face, which always wears that look of infinite love, of happiness without a shadow. My heart is still. At that moment, I am all that loves in the world. I am a mother, a father, a lover. She murmurs again, "I love thee. We will live in the country, the violets." Her lips part with a smile of ineffable joy, and she is at rest forever. It is evening, and I gaze through the gathering shadows at the outline of the slender figure in its bridal robe. My sorrow is as profound as it is sweet, for I feel that much will be pardoned me because I have soothed one poor, loving little heart and sweetened with happiness the bitter cup of death.
You have just heard Bride of a Day by J.H. Rosny. The reader was George Snow. This is historyradio.org, a non-profit radio stream promoting knowledge of literary classics and history.